Hello, creatives, community kind folks out there. Welcome to the show. I am your host, DBJ, and today is Third Pillar Thursday. Yeah, one of my favorites, really. Third Pillar Thursday deals with the third pillar of the gaming community. In essence, combat and social interaction are the first and second pillar, and the third pillar deals with exploration. But before we get into that, off to my side here is one of our latest releases from Critical Hit Publishing. It is, yes, The Road to Hell is Paved in Blood, Highway of Blood, 1970s setting for Call of Cthulhu. And our hardback just came in from Drive Through RPG. I'm helped develop this. I have to say that Alex and Ian did most of the writing on this, a lot of development and such, and this is a throwback to the 1970s desert muscle car, grindhouse type of movies. And just to let you know, right down here, this R rating, yeah, that's true. This is very adult, lots of adult themes in there. Drugs, violence, and possibly even torture is possible in this kind of horror movie-esque realm. All right, let's get back into the idea that of the crystal ball. Now, for those who don't know, we take a subject and we kind of spread it out all week long, and then we subdivide it: Monster Monday, Discord Tuesday, World Building Wednesday, and today, Third Pillar Thursday. And usually whatever subject we're talking about will correlate with using the environment. And that's kind of one of my favorite subjects, because the cinematic environs are a series of books that I'm writing for 5th edition, and Alex is simultaneously writing based on what I'm writing for modern era 7th edition Call of Cthulhu, and basically retroactively writing them. And the idea is it's not just about exploring the natural and or man-made environment, but making it have an actual mechanical impact on your world, even during your favorite combats, okay? And much like a boring fist fight with the protagonist and antagonist can be pretty boring in a parking lot, it gets far more exciting if they're doing it during a snowstorm, on the wing of a plane, hanging from ropes, running across a rope bridge, on the roof of a car, speeding down the highway, on horseback. All these things would be rather boring if Indiana Jones was not echo punching people in the throat while they're racing down the road on military vehicles and tanks with the Ark of the Covenant in the back of the vehicle, right? So, but strangely enough, like, what does this have to do with the crystal ball, since we've been talking about this all the way till hump day? Like, well, it's not, for me, it's not that the crystal ball has any effect on the environment. That's not it. There are two things that come to mind for me if I wanted to really incorporate the environment when it comes to the crystal ball. And remember, the ball, it neither needs to be crystal or a ball. The very closest analogy is the magic mirror, the mirror on the wall idea. Now, of course, the first one would be, where is this thing located? It could be located in a distant realm, or in a hazardous location, or hidden away past innumerable traps because of some strangely sadistic wizard that wanted to hide themselves or whatever. You could do that. The other thing that I would use, or how I would incorporate the environment when it comes to crystal ball, is what I consider to be a tension timer. And a tension timer, mechanically speaking, in the game is the idea that you have established for your players, either through narrative purposes and or mechanical purposes, meaning like rolling a die or stating that in 10 rounds or 5 turns or what have you, or 3 combat rounds, a particular thing will happen. It could be a tension timer, could also be something that, hey, on if you're using an initiative track, on initiative track 10, which is one of my defaults. I understand lair actions in Dungeons and Dragons happen on initiative 20, but however you disseminate initiative for your game, you could also have something happen at a particular time. Let's say you're doing round robin initiative, meaning you go around the table and comes back to you, the game master, and so on. You just go in a big circle. You could say, okay, between you two, this particular event will happen. You can also do this. Also works for escalation, continuous things. It could also involve some kind of randomizer, either randomizing when it happens or randomizing what exactly happens. Now, what does all this have to do with a crystal ball yet again? Well, the crystal ball and the magic mirror and oracles or anything that predicts the future, many times they will predict, and you, me personally, you want to predict something that's pretty exciting to happen. Sure, you could predict the birth of a child. You could predict the arrival of a stranger, but very often it will also predict the downfall of something dangerous, a comet across the sky, an eclipse or something. But they can also predict some of the nastiest weather patterns in history. It can predict the collapse of something that has never collapsed before. It can predict the oncoming of a major war or what have you. And so the crystal ball can act as a foreshadow for the player characters having to thrust themselves into a very dangerous situation. They could receive a message when there's a war between two warring nations, and the PCs have no particular desire or even, motivation to want to wander between two nations at war with each other. And sure, it's 600 leagues away or something like that. Like, why would we go there? And then the crystal ball or the chalice, the mirrored lake, or looking into the flames of whatever, or the Council of Seven tells the PCs that this particular thing will happen and you'll receive glory or whatever the motivation is for your player characters. But in order for this thing to happen, the timing has to be right. You must go to this place. You must arrive there at a particular time. You must be there to witness the event. And it could be extremely dangerous in and around this particular location. As a matter of fact, I would highly suggest to make it dangerous. Hello there over here on Twitch. Good day. You are a Vorticar? I hope I'm pronouncing that. Vorticar. Good day to you too. Now, as you know, listed below the video, this show is simulcast to Twitch, YouTube, and the Discord over at Fantasy Grounds College. If you prefer to listen in on the Discord server, you can join Fantasy Grounds College, and on the left, slide past all the administrators, the classrooms, that kind of thing. We are having fun down there in the boiler room, because that's where all the cool kids hang out. Ivar will do. Okay, all right, not a problem. No problem. Thank you for joining me. Now, again, the crystal ball can predict things, and through divination and prediction, it's a great way for you to layer in a foreshadow. And of course, a foreshadow, we know this in literature and movies and television shows and comic books and things. And the foreshadow gives you an image of, something yet to come. It is some foreshadows can be very subtle. For example, the PCs go to a tavern with the name Dragon in it, and then they see someone walking down the road, and they have Dragon embroidered on the sleeves of their jacket, and then someone's got a pet elephant that has Dragon in their name, and then later on in the game, the PCs, encounter a dragon, and then lo and behold, wow, that was pretty interesting for that to happen. Yes, you've foreshadowed that event. Now, That's very subtle. And sure, you can have fun with that. But hey, we're using a crystal ball or magic mirror or some other divination device. Why not hit them over the head with a clue stick and just say, hey, listen, if you arrive, hey, PCs, or even NPCs, and the PCs find out about it. If you arrive at this particular place, particular time and day, the thing will happen that will change the course of history. Whether that is finding an ancient device that becomes uncovered, or the death of a noble paladin will die at the hands of some kind of simplistic manner, choking on a chicken bone or something like that. The Achilles death. He's going to get shot in the heel and going to die after getting shot in his Achilles tendon. But something strange or bizarre might happen. Yep. Yep. Yeah. Oh yeah. Avar says, a con artist gypsy suddenly gets true vision. Could be fun. Exactly. Yeah. A person that everyone's like, they're a liar, whatever. And then all of a sudden they really get a real vision, and they need to arrive at the particular location. Now, just to let you know, today is again is Third Pillar Thursday, so the third pillar of gaming is exploration. Combat and social interactions are the other two pillars. So I'm going to very much focus this down on the environment and exploring the environment. Now, one way would also be to give the players clues as to some ways to have a safe passage through a very dangerous location. If you in your world you have, I don't know, the accursed desert, or maybe there's major whirlpools and storms to go across a particular ocean, or there's a mountain range that's never been crossed or something, and they're given clues as to not making it safe, but making it a little bit safer to cross at a particular point. Maybe booking passage with a sailing sailors guild, and the merchant ship is like, we're not going through there, no one's ever survived, and the PCs are like, well, in this day and time you'll be able to sail through, but we need the best to do it. And they're like, okay, fine, we'll go along. And then lo and behold, there are the DCs, the difficulty levels drop from an 18 to a 15, which is a little bit better. But I'm being silly on the mechanical part. But yeah, that could be a thing. Now, in terms of the foreshadow, when the player characters engage with the environment, they could have visions. This could be shown to them through the mirrored lake, or the oracles could tell them. You could even write this into some kind of riddle, and the PCs need to find this out. And this is a great way if you want to really include riddles and puzzles into your game without stopping the action. You never want to lock a door on your player characters. A locked door is having basically a literal or figurative locked door in front of the player characters, and if they can't open it, the game stops cold. You don't want to do that. So if you really want to give the player characters a riddle, because you're like, man, I found this book of riddles, or I got online and I typed in these riddles and it's really cool, and the riddles may give clues for their survival, but they can still continue on their pathway forward because they've got the riddle in their pockets. Nothing stopping them from literally walking forward and metagame wise progressing forward in your adventure. Avor says you may use actual tarot cards. Will give atmosphere to the game and really make your players think, what does it mean? Exactly. And you could, and of course, like, tarot cards are an excellent example of like specificity, but like vagueness as well. If you pull the Queen card or the Death card or Harvest card or something, you could make that mean just about anything. Like, is the Harvest card, the PCs have to push their way through 6-foot tall grass, and if they get far enough from their allies, they're unable to see predators in the tall grass, or even their own allies, being attacked from below because of something down there? Sure. Could the death card mean that there's a necromancer or a vampire or a plague or some kind of undead or some? Yeah, of course it could. It could also mean, someone stubs their toe and falls over and may possibly die. Right, it could be any of those things. The queen card could mean that they meet someone of royal heritage. They could meet someone who is destined to become the queen. They could meet an old hag who looks at herself as the queen of her swampy realm or something. Like, you could really reskin and reflavor those things. Or, and here's another great one, you give the players the cards and you haven't made up your mind, and you let your players kibitz at the table, like, I wonder what this means. I bet it's this. I bet it's that. And then just use their brain power and go, you know what? That's a really good idea. Screw this thing that I was thinking about. I'm going to go for their idea and just replace yours with theirs. And it makes them feel like they have succeeded. And in many ways they have, because they've given you the mind fuel. So why not thank them for it? Now, the other dangers, the other foreshadowed dangers, where I'm trying to think of a good example. Okay, a good example could be that there is a weather system. A weather system happens that's like the storm of the century: hail, winds, blizzards, bolts of lightning, some earthquakes. Uh, you know, a near living storm that's going to blanket a region that's never been blanketed like this before, and it foreshadows the coming of a great evil or whatever. So now you've already told your player characters what's about to happen, what's coming, and you could start to escalate the dangers as they get closer and closer to their to their goal. Now that escalation could run in parity to, say, character advancement levels, right? The danger increases. Their first level could be minor right now, but as they get closer and closer, the dangers become ever greater. Okay, i.e., you're using greater damages. You're using far more difficulty rolls in order to surpass certain things. You can do that. You could also do. You don't necessarily need to do it exactly that way. If it's a single gaming session, you could do the exact same thing as well. So you start out with, say, high winds, and the player characters are going through the wilderness, and they're looking for tracks to find the evil hag and her ultimate scheme or something. And the high winds are creating, Dungeons and Dragons terms, disadvantage for those that are launching things through the air for ranged attacks. And the arcane archer in the group is like, damn it, we got to get out of these winds. And then all of a sudden they hear a crack of lightning overhead, and you tell them the bolt of lightning strikes a mountain a few miles away, and side of the mountain cracks and tumbles to the ground, and you can feel the very ground shake beneath you. And the players are like, ooh, lightning's overhead. I wonder what's going to happen. And then you, as the game master, are like, remember that vision I gave you? Yeah, you might get hit by a stray bolt of lightning, and you might be using this as everyone has to make a roll. Everyone rolls a D8, and if you roll a 1, you have to make a save, or you're going to get struck by I don't know, shocking hand spell all the way to an actual lightning bolt or whatever you're making up, or you might get electrocuted, and you're going to have to make a save to prevent being stunned or knocked unconscious or something, or paralyzed. I mean, you can, and if you really, really, really want to make it complicated and chaotic, your adversaries might be victim to the same things as well, which might change the tide of the realm in your game. And listen, I understand that using the environment and environmental effects isn't very, not only is it not common, but sometimes it's a muscle that kind of gets atrophied, as meaning that even bringing it up, some people go, oh, it's too complicated. I would dare say that the stat block of most of your adversaries is far more complicated than applying disadvantage, or needing to make a saving throw or a skill check, or placing a hazard in a particular, if you're using minis and a battle mat, saying that a particular hazard is randomly moving across your battle mat, much like using one or more of your little your minis or obstacle on your mat, but just moving it around. And this represents a tornado, and this represents lightning. This represents fog. If you get close to this area, this represents the ground shaking, and you might fall into a crevice because of an earthquake, or something may tumble on top of you if you're close to a wall or cover or a rocky outcrop or something. And I would dare say you could probably remove some of your adversaries and then add in this other element of chaos into the game, and I think that would make it very memorable. Now Ivor says, "quote: Hey, can we hide in this forbidden and forgotten cave, which which turns out to be an old prehistoric tomb for anything? Yeah, of course, of course you can hide in there. It represents, and you're like looking through the tarot cards. It represents the Seven of Cups. Yep." Oh, well, I hope I was able to help you do that. Ivor says, "I just got an idea for this weekend's game." Yeah, yeah, dude, that's all this channel is. We go live Monday through Friday, and myself and those of you out there who take part in the game, take part in the live show, we'll say or do something or spit out an idea, and then we take that idea, we deep dive with it all week long, unscripted. Just me, my talking head, and my craziness, and you guys make me look good. So that's awesome. Yeah. That's what I was like. Exactly. Many thanks for this. Yeah, not a problem. Come here, steal an idea. That's the whole point, man. Now, and there's a huge archive, dude. If you want to look up things, we've done giants, we've done dragons, Medusas all week for as far as creatures go. We've done all kinds of weird themes that just kind of don't make any sense on a normal scale, and then you go, that would be interesting. Yeah, we've done that, and we've done that for like 2 years now, I think. So anyway, the another thing that allows you to get away, get away with it. Yeah, I'll use the term "get away with it" as a dungeon master, game master, when it comes to a world in which the players have access to a crystal ball or magic mirror, or maybe the NPC has access to this thing, and the player characters are able to acquire the knowledge that comes from the future. Is that once you predict the thing that's going to happen, it's far easier for you to get that across to your player characters. They're not surprised by it. It's not a gotcha. Traps can be kind of annoying because they seem like gotchas, right? Ultimately, traps to me are the reason why they often come across as very dull is because either the game master or dungeon master springs the trap on the player characters, and it just basically it becomes a resource drain, and the game master's like, "Ha ha, you fell in a pit trap," and everyone's like, "Yeah, whatever." Great, you got us, because you're the game master. Why wouldn't you get us? Or they do something to avoid the trap, and then the players are like, yeah, they're high-fiving each other, and the game master's like, they got around my traps is stupid. Traps are stupid. So either way, somebody wins, but there's a loser involved in it. But if you use the environment can be very, very dynamic, and the more tools you use to tell your players that this dangerous thing is going to happen in the future, even if it's very vague, the better chance you have of your players going, oh, using your tarot card idea, oh, yeah, the Nine of Swords or something. There's 9 swordsmen? Oh, I get it. That's why they're there. Even if you pull that out of your ass, right, you're like, man, the game's getting a little dull here. Let me look at my notes. 9 swordsmen show up, and normally if they didn't have that information, and the 9 swordsmen show up and just happen to know about the player characters, and they just happen to know about the dangers going on, it's like, well, the players might be rolling their eyes like, here's a Deus Ex Machina, whatever. It's the hand of God reaching down and changing the game, and I can tell the game master's just flubbing. trying to put something in our way because we're too successful. And yeah, yeah. And Dead Man says, used properly, the environment is an inanimate rival. Absolutely. If it is, as a matter of fact, there are plenty of novels, and those novels turned into movies, literally about one or more individuals struggling through the environment. Plane crashes on a mountain, people have to struggle through the environment to survive. Person goes on a personal journey of exploration. They go walking through the desert. The two to four people get lost in the woods and they have to survive for 14 days before the authorities can find them. Let's make a book, or let's look at their memoirs or make a movie about it. And they struggle through figuring out how to survive or something. As a matter of fact, I would dare say the movie The Martian counts in that, right? Matt Damon's they accidentally left on Mars, crew leaves, one main character stays back on Mars. Hey, I'm gonna have to science the shit out of this, right? And so that is the man against the environment, and it is crafted as a rivalry of man against the world. And of course you can do that, right? And yes, as the game master, you could start to escalate the dangers as if the environment is working against them. And the player characters could, maybe it was predicted that the end of the world may happen, and the player characters and the rest of society have to travel to a new world to survive. And they get on sailing ships, 1,000 sailing ships, to leave their world as they leave Volantis, and the 14 volcanoes erupt all simultaneously, and the lava spilling out into the ocean as hundreds or even thousands of kilometers of space is destroyed, and there's nothing left for humanity to live there. But we can sail to a new world, and people on sailing ships having to sail through dead seas and storms and hurricanes and starvation and madness and mutiny and all these kind of things, right? The environment is a great tool to use, and if you want to foreshadow that with some kind of prediction, you can very much use that. Now, we do have player character class types that you could literally they're sitting at your fingertips. Any character that plays, say, a paladin, a cleric, a warlock type character, someone who is gifted with some sort of psychic awareness, a sorcerer, maybe none of those. Maybe a player character has a special connection with a lost loved one, or a player character has a trinket that has some kind of uniqueness to it, and you could literally say, oh hell, you could just do a dream sequence and drop some knowledge on them while they're sleeping, and maybe the whole 3 members of the adventuring party wake up simultaneously and they realize they all had the same dream, and you as the game master dropped these vague proclamations on them, and now you've given them some clues. You wanted to change things up a little bit, and now when they encounter the environment, man-made or not, you're not surprising them with something. You're not trying to trick them. You're giving them clues, albeit investigating it not physically, but through exploration of their memories and such. Yeah, Deadman says, when the environment is beaten by the players, everyone celebrates. Exactly. And again, it's not a one and done. It's not like, oh, there's a pit trap. Make a roll to see if you notice it or not. Oh, you don't notice it, fall into the pit trap. Or, hey, make a perception check or an investigation check. You noticed it. All right, you move around it. It's one and done. But a blizzard, a sandstorm, an earthquake, the eruption of a volcano, these things can go on for days, if not weeks, and the ramifications of those things can have long-term effects and affect the world. So if you really want to surprise your players, or you want to change things up, I think using the environment is great for that. And if you are able to give them some clues, some predictions, the more the merrier. Much like ancient man not knowing when a full eclipse will come, or not knowing when an earthquake will hit, or not knowing when a tsunami will strike. Giving these clues to the player characters could really, let them be prepared for it. Either with when it comes to equipment or special class abilities or something, and giving them some kind of clue to have them be prepared for it, and then dropping it on top of them. Why the hell not? And of course, you could do the same thing with adversaries as well, combined with it. A tsunami could bring with it a number of enemies from the sea that have been washed up to shore or something like that, because their underwater home has been destroyed or whatever, and they're looking for food and slaves, or a new haven or something like that. I mean, you can, of course, overlap all of these things. Another thing that could really be used for the environment and predicting the future are, well, the behavior of people in the region. Okay, and it could be as large as, say, tens of thousands leaving a particular location as refugees. It could be the arrival of nobles or rich merchants, or a powerful wizard's order. It can even go as detailed as the behavior of a guard at a particular place. Then and the PCs know that one of the guards will become sick because they've seen this in the future. The guard shows up for work. They change shifts. The guard that just got there starts sneezing and coughing, pulls out a handkerchief and is just like, oh, my stomach hurts, and leaves their post. And then the player character's like, oh, wow, this I predicted the future. This did work. And then they're able to sneak into the restricted area because the guard happened to get sick. This could be a reskin or a reflavor of a particular ability a player character has, meaning like maybe a player character has a high level of perception or stealth, or a player character reskins their character so that they're not highly skilled. They're just very lucky because they're able to see things. They're able to see various timelines in the future to time things in a particular way. Like I mentioned the other day, a character could have like a +4 to something, and one player character, because I'm an excellent swordsman. The other player character is like, well, I'm not really good with swords, but I can predict where the person's going and then strike at the place where I have the highest probability of hitting, right? And that might be a thing. Like one character's got +4 stealth, and they're like, yeah, I could sneak past the guard and literally tap him on the shoulder and sneak around the other side because I'm a ninja. And the other player character's like, I'm just going to time it for him to look down on his desk because he dropped an ink pen, and then sneak around the desk as he's looking for the ink pen that he just happened to fall, or he spills coffee on his shirt, and he's like, damn it, gets up and goes to get a clean shirt or something, or to wipe it off, and then that's more narrative, but sure, you could do something like that, as well as maybe there's ways where, like, for example, you have an adventure, but you're like, you know what, I purchased this written adventure, and it's got a hell of a lot of secret doors in it, and I'm not really a fan of secret doors, but I really want to use the adventure. You know what? I'm going to give them clues to the secret doors by giving them this divination, this prediction to them, right? To the player characters. Hell, even going back to what Eivor said, mentioned about the tarot cards, maybe the old hag that's been like the motivating factor in this adventure for the past couple of sessions plays the cards out, and it's a way for the player characters to find out. Like, she's like, hey, hands over a card, says something like, you will find the 7 secrets, and those 7 secrets will be in front of you. Look behind, look above, look below. The 7 secrets will be there. They will open the doors to greater glory, or something like that, right? I don't know. I pulled that out of my ass, right? And so later on, the player characters might be thinking to themselves, they're like, wonder what the seven secret people? No, no, no. Maybe there's seven secret keys, and they're going to open the doors for us or something. And then you as the game master, as they're going along into the dungeon, you could say, make an investigation check, make a history check, make whatever, make an intelligence roll or whatever. And you say, no, maybe you're thinking secret doors, and they go, oh, okay, yeah. Why don't we look for secret doors? And then here's a great way for you to go. I, I don't want them walking around. I don't want my player characters walking around aimlessly and acting like they're, feeling stupid. I also don't want to do a gotcha, right? Because it's annoying to sit around with your arms folded and just laughing at your player characters while they walk around the same rooms over and over again, having to miss all the secret doors and spend 4-6 sessions, with the players are like, this adventure's stupid, all simply because there's a locked door in front of them, literally a locked door they couldn't see. And this, listen, you purchased the adventure or you made the adventure. Why sit there and let the player characters fumble? The whole point of creating an adventure is for your player characters to dive into it. If you got a swimming pool, you want to get in it, right? On a nice warm day. So let your player characters swim in your swimming pool and have some fun throwing around the beach ball. You got to let them advance in your thing. And if this is a useful tool, why not? Why not let them use it? Let them find the secret doors and to continue on deeper into the dungeon. And that's a really cool clue to use. Now, of course, this can be used against the player characters as well. Some enemy is using a scrying device, could very well finagle the players to go into some place that's dangerous. They could be maybe there's something that delays the player characters while they're on a sailing craft to be caught in a storm, or the player characters are going across the accursed desert and someone tricks them. The enemy that has the crystal ball that's using it against the player characters maneuvers them into the dangerous pass in the accursed desert. So now the sandstorm's coming and there's dangerous rocks perched over top of them, and they're attacked by orcish Tuscan raiders at the exact same time. There's a flash flood, which also includes, blah, 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 right? You start stacking on all these dangers, and it could be something they're being manipulated. And the player character's like, damn it, they know everywhere we go. This person knows what's happening, and they're always confronting us, what's going on. And here's another way to foreshadow. The enemy says out loud, of course it's got to be a stupid enemy, right? The enemy says out loud, the Tuscan raider chieftain or something, that we've been following you. There's nowhere you can hide. Our master's watching you from afar and knows you. Or again, beating them over the head with a clue stick, right? Where the players are like, oh, no wonder it's always dangerous. He knows exactly where we're going and what we're going to do. And that might be the way to give the player characters the clue that there's a clue that someone else is using a device to set them up, right? I mean, if you do this too often, the players are going to get pissed off and table flip, right? Like, can't we ever get ahead? This person can't know exactly our ideas. You're just metagaming. And you're like, no, the Council of Seven Archwizards has a crystal ball. That's kind of the point. What's another one? We talked about using drones or drone-like creatures or devices. The mini beholders, the eyeballs floating around corners, the aerodyne drones that we have today in a modern setting, flying overhead, the trained winged creature, whether it's like trained eagles or falcons or hawks or something, trained bats by the goblins or something. Like, there could be something flying overhead or floating overhead that's watching the PCs and corralling them into far more of a dangerous location. You could, much like we associate kobolds in classic Dungeons and Dragons as the trap masters, someone or something that is adapted to its region could create hazards around the player characters, even though the player characters have prior knowledge of this. So going back to the Tusken Raider concept, those orcs living in the desert and trying to corral the player characters down into the valley, you can have a air quotes collapsing ceiling trap, or the classic Indiana Jones rolling tumbling stone trap as they go into the valley, and you could just reskin it as the environment. You could oh, what's the spell? Fog cloud. Well, that's dust kicked up from a dust storm. Oh, the sandstorm gets even more powerful. It add in a gust of wind as a spell effect throughout the valley or something. You could come on, guys. There's so many other things. You have the hazards of climbing and getting trapped in tight spaces, or being hit by debris as it tumbles down on the player characters, and you come up with a randomized chart. Okay, I'm going to roll a d6, and you have to make, if you're hit by debris, you have to make a save for being knocked unconscious, or being blinded by dust, or having one of your limbs ruined, basically dislocated and or sprained or something, and it might be your thigh, and so it reduces your movement. It could be your shoulder that gets injured, and you can't hold anything in that arm or something. I mean, you could have it just on and on and on. Now, of course, you guys know that as a contributing writer to Critical Hit Publishing, the cinematic oh wow, oh yeah, the cinematic environments are my baby. It incorporates that and much more. So, as an example, that's a little bit of a plug. But getting back to the crystal ball and the divination as well, the MacGuffin could, as a tension timer, could be somewhere, and the player characters are now on the run to get to the place before the true danger starts. So, for example, let's say there's a castle, and little by little, the castle's been sinking into it. It was built offshore, and it's built on a small little inlet. But over time, the castle has begun to sink, and the PCs are given information. Listen, we got to get into the castle, get down into the dungeon, get the MacGuffin out. The MacGuffin could be a magic ring, a sword, treasure, a captured noble. It doesn't matter. Victims to an ancient, to be given over to a sacrifice, whatever the case might be. They got to go down into the castle, get the MacGuffin out before the castle completely sinks into the drink, or before the earthquake strikes, or before the volcano erupts, or before the sandstorm sweeps through the region, or before the tsunami or hurricane or tornado strikes the coastal town or something, or in other words, it can be a motivator for the players to hurry up to get the hell in and out before a thing happens. And then you can play with that by having little by little escalation. Okay, you get into the castle and you're going down below, but you hear the walls are dripping water, and right behind the stone walls you literally can feel the rush of water. There's a good chance that one errant strike to the stone and this place will begin flooding, and the PCs are like, oh, we better be careful, and they go deeper into the dungeon, and now they're in flooded rooms and such, and they can hear the chanting of the cultists deeper into the flooded region or something, and they peer around the corner, and there's an altar with the sacrifice tied to the altar, and the person's muffled voices trying to escape before the curved dagger plunges into the heart of the one that's gonna open up the portal or something. And in the corner is a stone portal, and it begins to glow, but half the portal's underwater, and the cultists are standing in waist deep water or something, and maybe the PCs are like, okay, what do we do? Okay, we could flood. We could leave. No, we don't want the ritual to go through, but we need to get out of here. But the place is sinking and it's going to flood. Maybe we can accelerate the flooding. You're like, oh, that would be good. We could flood you know, get the MacGuffin out, save the innocent individual, and then just drown the cultists, and then we could run our way out of here. Hey, we might have to swim our way out too, but whatever. Okay, well, we'll do that, and then forget the treasure. We're just gonna swim our way out of out of the escaping out of the dungeon. We're gonna have to hold our breath, but whatever. I mean, you can play so much with the environment on that. So not only might they be corralled into danger, but they might have to, you may give them the benefit of being able to avoid most of the dangers if they do something in a particular time frame. Now, those time frames could be measured in days or hours or minutes, but you could also measure them into rounds of activity, right? They know that the accursed desert and the storm is coming, and you could literally take a die. I mean, metagame the hell out of it. Take a die, roll it in front of the player characters, and go, I rolled a 4 on a d4. You guys are lucky. On round 4, this thing will happen. Or just on round 4, yeah, you guys know it's pretty dangerous. Harm's going to befall you guys. What are you going to do? You see on the horizon the sandstorm. There's, you can smell ozone and bolts of electricity arc through the upper reaches of the storm as the sandstorm is this dark cloud, sweeping across the land, miles and kilometers wide or something. And the player's like, "Oh, we got 4 rounds. We can do this. We can kill the cultists, get the prisoners out of there, get out of here, go through the valley of the accursed desert, get past the Tuscan Raiders, not get hit by tumbling debris, and eventually make it to shelter." And everyone's like, "Dude, that sounds like a great idea, but I think we're going to get caught." Now, mind you, the metagame part of this, we don't need to make a hard line between die rolls and the narrative aspect of the game. Meaning, like, in the game, something might take 4 rounds. Out of the game, you might roll a die and say it's 4 rounds. But in the game, people have a relatively good ability to time things out, much like looking at oncoming traffic. Oh, that car's about to hit that other person. Or you're watching a television show. Show's going to be over in about 6 minutes. It's, hey, I put something on the stove. I didn't set the timer. Well, I put it in the oven. It should be done just about now, right? It's the eyeball the effect kind of thing. And eyeballing time and space is something we do all the time. And sure, a player character that's a 7th level fighter might be pretty easy for them to time out when the second wave of goblinoids arrives, coming over the region in their cobbled together desert garb, and the fighter looks up and goes, "Guys, we only have mere moments to dispatch our enemies before the riders on their giant scorpions are here," because you can see them climbing down the walls of the valley, getting ready to reinforce the scouting party that came before them, in the orc raiders or something. So sure, in game, they've got 4 rounds. Outside the game, outside the game, they've got 4 rounds. Inside the game, the player character knows how long it's going to take them, and they're like, okay, so this is how long we do. Hey, you do this, you heal this person, you buff the party, blah, blah, blah. Let's get the hell out of here before the storm hits. So that's a really good way to also have a tension timer when analysis paralysis really takes hold of the player characters. Ivar says, I got an idea. Group hides in a tomb, finds ladder down, then finds out that their world is not magic, but left over of ancient high-tech civilization. That's a good world building thing. And now you might have to, if you don't know this, classically in Dungeons and Dragons, that actually already happened. There's an adventure. I actually have a review of it. It's an old video. It's terrible, but I did a review of Expedition to the Barrier Peaks, and that was a tournament game and an advertisement for when TSR was going to go into Gamma World, if I'm not mistaken. No, it was well before Spelljammer. Well, Spelljammer is, you could say it's high tech, but no, I literally mean there's an adventure called Expedition to the Barrier Peaks, in which fantasy characters. This is back when there was a thief and a magic user, as opposed to a wizard and a rogue, and you literally go into a spaceship, like it's a literal spaceship, buried in the mountains of the Barrier Peaks in Greyhawk, if I'm not mistaken, the west side of the map. Um, Mechanus, Mechanus in the Planescape. Yeah, yep. I think they used it there. It's possible. I don't remember if the Barrier Peaks spaceship's been used anywhere else, but the idea of like technology being mixed in the fantasy is actually pretty common. Fantasy and technology has always been mixed together. It's a recent phenomenon, and when I say recent, like 60s, 70s, 80s, when it was separated into two camps. But in the beginning, fantasy and science was always mixed together. Yep. Yep. Who's it? So Free Wolf. Hey, what's going on there? You can find broken stuff on Acheron. Yeah, planes. I see some Planescape fans out there. Yeah. I see it now. The idea again, going down that theme and whatnot, using the crystal ball, a mirror, some kind of divination, whether someone is given that or player characters are able to. Thank you, dead man. Whether someone is able to find out some particular information about something, like let's say the player in your game, the players are like, you know what, we really want this to be switched up. We would love to have some science fiction thrown into our fantasy world. Like, we're really looking forward to that. And you, as the game master, are like, I don't know. You know what? Maybe they predict the landing of a spaceship, and then the player characters think it's, society think it's a falling star or a comet, but really it's a spaceship. And then away they go, right? Yeah, don't worry, Wolf. They're getting squirreled is a commonality on this show. Try to keep it on point, but yes, we're talking holistically about the crystal ball, meaning it neither needs to be crystal or a ball, but the what it does, predicting the future. Now there is something else. There is something else that the crystal ball does, and that allows us to see distant regions, and it can also be a manipulation device. It could manipulate people to doing the things they don't want to do. It can enhance the dark thoughts of the people that look into it, and those individuals might be blinded to the dangers of the environment around them. The sea captain that looks into the mirror and wants to know who's the best sea captain in the mirror is just like, the mirror tells the sea captain, "You're the best. Yeah, you are. You're the best sea captain." And then puts the PCs in danger because he's like, "Storm, no big deal. I'm the best there is." That's just as a little example. Yeah, and like Avor says, hard mix is not the best idea, right? If you could foreshadow the thing happening beforehand, maybe the player characters go, I, I don't really like mixing tech with my fantasy, but now that you soften the blow a little bit by having this predicted, yeah, okay, maybe I'll soften up to the idea. And then, after two sessions, we travel across the accursed desert again, and then we find it wasn't really a falling star, but it was a spacecraft, and I don't know, some armored foes come out of it. Maybe you have some robots that are just reskinned constructs. Maybe there's some monsters that come out of it that were just reskinned from something else. And You know, instead of a magic wand, staff, or rod, it's really a firearm, and it only has so many charges. So then, when maybe the player character's like, oh well, it's not really changing the world. It's just a couple of like black slates that shine three-dimensional images, and a suit of armor that's only used for a short amount of time before the power runs out. I'll accept that. Sure. Avar says also, if you if you start in a fantasy world, it should be a fantasy world, but some touches can be added for atmosphere or lore. Exactly. And again, the narrative is just description. It's all fluff, right? You can describe things any way you want. It's up to us as far as gaming balance goes, right? A high-tech laser pistol could just be a rod of magic missiles, and you just use those same gaming statistics. And when the rod of magic missiles runs out of its 17 charges, it's just a laser pistol that can't fire anymore, right? Or a blaster pistol that can't fire anymore. So narratively, someone can go, ugh, firearms, I hate it. But, gaming wise, and of course I'm using Dungeons and Dragons as a base, right? But gaming wise, if it's just a thing, then it's just a thing. A force shield projector on someone's arm could just be a shield that gives you +2 armor class. It just happens to look like a thing. Try not to, or I would suggest to people who are balking at the idea, to not confuse narrative with gaming statistics. Reskinning, reflavoring, reusing, repurposing something that's already in the game doesn't break the balance of it. But narratively, you can just call things what it is, right? Well, anyway, guys, we're getting towards the hour mark. I want to thank you guys for for hanging out with me. It is a cool thing to see more and more people take part. Those of you over on Twitch, I would really appreciate if you could kind of like follow along. I'd love to become an affiliate. I need 50 followers. It's kind of weird, but yeah. Also, if you're not a particular fan, you just happen to be scrolling through and you happen to fall over to Twitch, again, like at the bottom of the video, we are live on YouTube as well, and the Fantasy Grounds Discord. Those links are in the Twitch chat, so if you want to scroll up and down, Deadman, who's a moderator, I appreciate your help there, has put those links in to there. So guys, thank you very much, so much for just being part of the show and allowing me to do what I do. Again, we go live Monday through Friday for an hour of just basically open talk, man. It's a open, free form. Now we do have a theme. Each day is a theme, and we take a subject all week and then we kind of subdivide it. And future Fridays are relegated for Eclipse Phase, the Altered Carbon role-playing game, The Expanse, basically transhumanist role-playing. So, guys, thank you very much. I am DBJ. I am a contributing writer to Critical Hit Publishing. We hang out in the boiler room and Discord over at Fantasy Grounds, and I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Basically, everyone, I want you guys to have a great one. Your time is very valuable. I hope you're able to leave with a little bit of change. Thank you, thank you, thank you.